Welcome to the Fort Myers Beach Good Neighbor podcast. No shade, just sunshine. Drama-free, positive vibes only. This is the Fort Myers Beach Chamber Roxie series, where we share local information, meet the people who make this island special, and shine some sun on the businesses that keep our island glowing. Here's your host, Cabo Jim Shallow.
Good morning, good neighbors. Today we're at the Roxie here in Times Square, and we've got the U.S. Coast Guard here today.
Actually, we're the Coast Guard Auxiliary.
See, I knew I was going to be corrected. There we go. So, why don't you show, well, what do we got? Dan and Dave, right?
Yep.
Dan and Dave.
My name is Dan Eaton. I'm the Public Affairs Officer for the Coast Guard Auxiliary for Fort Myers Beach, Florida here, Flotilla 91. We've been serving in the Fort Myers Beach area now for over 20 years. Actually, we just had our, big anniversary coming up this last January, celebrated 20 years.
Wow.
And basically what we do, let me tell you a little about the Coast Guard Auxiliary is, we are chartered by Congress in 1939. And since then, we're now a member of the, Department of Homeland Security after going through several iterations.
Yep.
I do want to do a little caveat, a little disclaimer here, first of all, being that we are with the Department of Homeland Security and the government is shut down. Our presence here is not funded by the Coast Guard. Okay. The Coast Guard Auxiliary basically funds primarily itself and non-operational missions, meaning we use our own cars, our own vehicles, our own gas, our own time, our own boats, right? And why do we do that?
Good question.
Why do we do that? Because we believe in the mission. Okay, we believe in the mission. That's why we do it. And what a lot of people don't realize, some people turn around and say, Dan, well, what do you do with the auxiliary? I says, it's simple. I try to save taxpayers money. Right? And they like, what do you mean? I says, well, the big push for the auxiliary is on the prevention side, meaning outreach, education, information. And the more people are educated and informed, that carries over onto the operational side, hopefully with less search and rescue cases. Because search and rescue cases can be really expensive.
Absolutely.
Really, really expensive. You don't realize how expensive it is to operate, whether it be the small boat, the response boat, medium, right? You get a Coast Guard cutter involved, you start getting, the air wing involved. This all gets really, really expensive. So if there are simple things that we can do to help educate consumers in order to, to reduce
that,
reduce the search and rescue cases, the better. And even on the enforcement side, the Coast Guard Auxiliary doesn't do enforcement, but what we do is education.
Safety.
And one of the big things here is in the Kansas Pass is the slow speed zones. People have a challenge, right, obeying the slow speed zones. And little do people are really aware of, there's this little federal law called the Marine Mammal Protection Act, okay? And fines for harassing, speeding, doing anything with marine mammals can cost you a fine up to $50,000.
Wow. Or you're fail to vote.
Big bucks,
Right.
big bucks. And, and the response back to that, well, I didn't know, is not an excuse. It's not an excuse. And, so that's kind of a challenge. So if we can help reduce accidents with manatees and dolphins and things of that sort, the better. And in that same breath, you're hopefully saving someone from getting fined.
Oh, absolutely.
And the same thing goes, with having the right equipment on the board, on the boat. We offer free vessel safety checks where our vessel examiners will come to you, whether at the marina or at your house even, and go over the vessel, right, to be sure you have the proper equipment. So when you turn around and get boarded either by the Coast Guard or by local law enforcement, they're going to start checking some of this stuff, and it better be right. Now, with the new law that passed, you now have to basically do a self-attestation saying that, yeah, you're good, okay? But guess what? That's not going to help you when you get stopped, for doing something else, and you don't have, let's say, a proper number of life jackets on board, or the fire extinguishers are expired, or you don't have the proper number of, distress things of that sort. So, I mean, that's the big thing. That's in a nutshell, kind of like what we do, um, and that's our objective, so to speak.
Yeah. And we've got a lot of boaters.
We do.
Activity down here, but then
We
you have
do.
a lot of people coming from out of state that
That's
maybe they're not familiar with the rules.
This is yeah, you mentioned that, and that's a really big challenge. You know, we offer boating safety classes. Dave is in charge of our public education program, and we do offer some seminars, you know, during season. One big one is called Suddenly in Command, and that's what if what do you do if all of a sudden the captain is incapacitated? How do you call for help? What do you do?
Yeah.
You know, and it covers that kind of stuff, you know, which is good. But you know, you make a valid point. All too often, some of these rentals, short-term rentals, come with boats.
Yeah.
You know, and you get someone from out of state, right? Someone from out of state and is not familiar with the waters.
Yeah.
You know, have no idea what tides are. You know what I'm saying? And you know, and it's that can in the current tides and all that other fun stuff. You know, so. You know, so it's a matter of of education and information and that type of thing. You know, there's a lot of instances that I can mention, but probably the worst one that I think of on Fort Myers Beach was a few years ago. There was a boater that ran aground right on the beach by Lanny Kai, and unlike up north, everybody gets stuck in the snow, and everybody wants to help push you out of the snow, right? It's not like that in the water at all. And so as a result, there was a few people that tried to push the vessel off the shore. A young lady slipped, and the moving propeller came in contact with her head. And there was so many different things that went wrong with that situation. Okay, first of all, that engine should not have been running with people in the water, first of all. And, some of the stuff you think is common sense, but
goes out the window.
It does, it's like, unfortunately it does. But, so that's, that it was a very terrible, unfortunate situation. And, and what could have changed in that? That's what I always say. What could have changed? It's like, well, someone should have said, this is wrong, first of all, even if a bystander could have said, hey,
turn off the engine.
This isn't right. This isn't going to work, and it was a sad situation. But when we go out, I always mention our boating safety classes. When people go out, they have certain expectations, and you ask what your expectation is, right? And everybody says, I'm going to go out, I'm going to have fun, we're going to catch fish, I'm going to catch some rays, right?
See some dolphins.
And we're going to have a good time. Not one sets the expectation saying, I expect to come back.
Right?
Yeah. And I got to tell you, all too often, someone doesn't come back. And it affects not only them, their family, friends, relatives, the whole, center of influence, and it becomes a terrible situation. And it could have been, some of the stuff could have been avoided.
Yeah.
It's been avoided with what? Some knowledge.
Yeah.
Some knowledge, some awareness,
Makes a big difference. Now, were you involved in the search recently with the lawyer?
I personally was not. Basically the Coast Guard Auxiliary, what we'll do, we'll backfill a lot.
Okay.
Meaning if the Coast Guard is overtasked, we backfill. Like I was a radio watchstander here for, 15 years.
Okay.
So when people got in trouble, they get to call the Coast Guard, and I get to talk to these nice people that are in trouble, right? And it's a challenge.
Coast Guard Auxiliary pretty much mans all of the radios and phones at the Fort Myers Beach Coast Guard Station.
Okay.
And so that's a big position that we hold there. The other thing too is just reiterate, I am Dave Massey. I'm the flotilla staff officer for the public education end of our flotilla 9-1 Fort Myers Beach, and we do host motor safety classes called Boat America the third Saturday of every month at the Pine Ridge Community Center, right there in Fort Myers. And our next class coming up is March 21st. It goes basically from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. You'll get a boater safety card, you'll get a certificate of completion, and then we mail you out a permanent lifetime boater safety card that is actually Florida specific. And if you were born in 1988 or later, you have to have one of these boater safety cards to operate any boat with a 10 horse or larger.
Wow. Okay.
And they're actually looking, I've heard talk that they may make it mandatory for everybody. I think if they just keep that year and that going, eventually it will be everybody. So, you know, but the boater safety class is super educational. You're going to learn about navigation, one of the trickiest parts down here, the intercoastal coming in, the reversing of markers, the way you might think about it up north. You know, it's not always red right turning and things like that with intercoastal waterways. But the boaters education class is super, super informative, very educational. It's and like I said, it's almost mandatory if you're going to be boating down here. It's certainly necessary.
You know, the big thing about the class, it's not going to make you an expert.
No.
It's not going to turn you into a captain, okay? But it will give you essential knowledge to help reduce the risk that's out there. And the big challenge is, are you aware of the risk in the first place?
Yeah.
What risks are you posed with out there? And once you're manned with that knowledge, you can mitigate those risks. You can reduce those risks by taking steps. That because why? Because you're more aware of the situation.
And it's not just for the novices. I mean, the professionals need an update and continue.
I got
as well.
I got to tell you, I've had some fishermen, you know, take the course. You know, it's kind of interesting. The one turned around. He's a flats boats fisherman. Okay, so he's in a flats boat. He can pretty much go anywhere. You know, I mean, he's got a draft of maybe 3 or 4 inches, right? And we're talking about the aids to navigation, and he goes, "Oh, so that's what those things are for, right?" It's like it didn't necessarily pertain to him, you know, but once he realized, it's like, and it's very true that, you know, one of the big takeaways from a lot of the classes are simple. It's like, I didn't realize how much I didn't know,
Right. I said, if you're not content, it doesn't matter what age you are, there's always something you can learn. You're going to learn something every time.
I've been boating for over 50 years up in Michigan and in the Great Lakes, and it's a whole different ballgame down here with, like Dan said, the tides and the current that the tides produce, and the difference in navigation from up north and getting into the intercoastal waterways. It's a totally different animal down here. Even after 50 years of boating, I came down here and there was a lot to learn. Didn't know what
it's like you know it all.
Right? Yeah, you never know it all.
Yeah, you know, that's a challenge. You think you know it all. And another thing that comes with that same line of thought, and that's ego.
Yeah,
it's ego. You know, I've been doing it forever. I feel safe. I know what I'm doing. I don't need to wear a life jacket.
that's when the danger comes.
That's when, as soon as that happens, it's like, you know, that's the number one thing that you can do to protect your life while on the water is wearing your life jacket.
Yeah.
I mean, some people, it's like, oh, it's hot. Well, you know what? There's new style life jackets out there that are inflatable. They're comfortable. Some even are kind of like a fanny pack style. You know, like, there are choices out there. It's not your grandpa's, you know, K-Pac big orange, you know, life jacket that you had. The crazy neck. You know, it's not like that anymore. You know, the technology has gotten much better. You know, and you know, seriously, you know, you look at, you know, some of the accidents that happen, and the number one cause is drowning.
Yeah, and you think about it nowadays, people probably protect their phone more than they protect themselves when they're.
Let me tell you a little story about this. There was this one video I got to share with this. There was one video. This young gal, she was on a boat. They're going out. They hit big waves. She fell off the boat. Right. There was a good Sam on a jet ski. Right. Good Sam on a jet ski. Right. Gonna go help her out. What does she do? Right. What does she do? She holds her phone out and says, "Take my phone." Right. Take my phone instead of helping her out. Take my phone. You know. It's like, oh yes. It was kind of funny, and it's like it's a whole matter of priorities. You know. It's like, huh? You know. It's like, because it's, you know, if you end up in the water, it's not a planned event usually. You know, unless you're going swimming. But you know, if you're in a boat, you hit a wave, you get you get knocked off, and you never know. Let me relate another story with you real quick. We had an auxiliarist down in Isla Morana. He goes to his wife, I'm going to go work on my boat, for a little bit. It was like missing or whatever. Takes his boat out. He had his life jacket on, doing all the right things. He goes, it was getting hot, right? What did he do? He took his life jacket off, right? The boat was in gear. A wave hit the boat. He fell in the water. Now, the boat was still in gear, right? And guess what? The boat idled away. Idled away. He treaded water for about 11 hours. From the salt water, his eyes were all shut and everything. But the big thing was that he survived, which was good. They found the boat in Havana Harbor. They just kept on going, so it can happen to anyone. It can happen to anyone. But the big thing is, wear a life jacket. I mean, set the example for everybody.
With the technology out there, like Dan was saying, these new inflatables. In fact, I just bought a couple of new ones for my boat. But you've got the fanny packs now that are much bigger than a large belt. And you go in the water, at least that thing's going to automatically inflate. You can put the thing on, it's right there with you. And if your boat was in gear or if they can't get to you immediately, at least you've got a life-saving device on. And of course, the suspender style are really the best. And that's the perfect type of jacket to wear down here when it's hot.
Exactly.
And they're, they're somewhat stylish. It's, not wearing the big orange thing like we had talked about. But just having a life jacket on, it's going to save a lot of lives. You can get everybody on board.
You can even, I even gave the option of, let's take your older life jackets and have a life jacket painting party with the kids.
Ah, there we go. Right.
Okay. Bring the kids over. Bring all kinds of different colored magic markers. There's iridescent, red, orange, and let the kids paint them. Right. You put that life jacket on. There's two things that are happening. First of all, the kids are excited that you're wearing the life jacket that they did. The second thing is it's different. Okay, it's different. Now, as long as you stick with those fancy bright colors, there's no law saying that it has to be yellow or it has to be orange. But as long as you can be spotted, that's the big thing. And being certain actually that you don't paint over the reflective tape and stuff like that. But how proud of those kids would be, if their dad's wearing the life jacket that they blinged up, so to speak, But
my dad's gonna say, no, I don't want to wear that.
Yeah, no, but that. Exactly. So that was one thing I thought would be fun. But the big thing is engaging people and making them aware of everything that goes on. And that's really that's the big challenge. Like you said, the speed zone here in Estero Bay is huge problem. It's just absolutely huge problem because you get people from out of state. They don't understand the difference between a slow speed, minimum wake, and no wake, and what area is what. Because I think that there should be some obligation of the renter of the people that are renting
some education
to let them understand. Well, you got the boat, but with that boat comes the responsibility of operating it properly, correctly, safely, and within the legal realms of operation.
You jump out of a plane, you got to take a class before you jump out of a plane, don't you? Right?
They should offer a good safety training before you rent any kind of boat.
So that's kind of like, pretty much in a nutshell what the auxiliary does. On the operation side, we are involved in search and rescue and things of that sort when we're out there. And it's, where it's all a matter a lot of times just backfilling. It's a matter of backfilling, things that if they're out doing other things, we can backfill. We have auxiliaries that are cooks at the station. In culinary, they backfill there. We do radio watch standing. I mean, we'll do, maintenance. There's all kinds of things that we can turn around and add on to, to help those kids out, And just on another little side note, I'm hiding this right now, you know, on a personal note. On a personal note, I don't think they should ever do a government shutdown. Okay.
Right.
That's my own personal feeling.
Yep.
Because, you know, these kids are, I don't want to say kids, you know, these adults, you know, the young men and women of the Coast Guard are not getting paid.
Yeah.
They're not getting paid, and it's just simply not right. That's just me. You know, some people may argue with me, but you know, you're putting such unnecessary pressure on the family unit by doing that. You know, and they shouldn't be pawns in, you know, in the situation.
I agree.
That's my own personal feeling, but it is what it is. It is what it is. But you know, that's the whole thing.
And we appreciate what you guys do, and thank you for making Fort Myers Beach a lot safer for us and the boaters out there. And we'll hope to see you out in the water here soon, right?
Yeah, we're.
I'd like to thank Cabo Jim for having us. And,
No
Fort
problem.
Myers Beach Chamber Conference for letting us do a little presentation. Yeah, definitely check out our safety classes. You can go to our website and sign up right online. Like I say, March 21st, our next class. So,
Very good. We
Yeah.
should all be there.
right on.
Very good. Oh, she's got a question.
Yeah.
Are you in charge of owners who like live on canals that have to take a Coast Guard test to be able to get out into the intercoastal?
Yeah, there's no specific requirement other than age
Is
on that. Yes.
Because my parents had to take. Okay.
There's right now there's no specific requirement other than the one by age and the size of the engine, you know, but that may come, you know, it may come. Would I be against it? No, you know, but I think there might be a few resistance of some of the old timers out there, you know, with the big egos saying, I've been doing this forever. I already know everything that there is. Okay, Mr. Old Salty Captain, you know.
There we go.
But yeah, that's the big thing, you know. And you know, the other thing naturally is pollution and environmental protection. We do a lot of that as well as education. You know, we've had Nick down here with the oh my gosh, what's the name of the agency in Fort Myers Beach here from downtown? No, the town of Fort Myers Beach. Oh my gosh, I'm old.
Oh, that's checking a lot.
It's just like,
or something like
no,
that,
it's going in. It's going in, going out. It's on the tip of my tongue, but for the darn, I can't think of it. But anyway, Nick comes down here with that pop-up that they do.
Yep.
And, you know, we'll talk about environmental protection and, you know, and how long stuff stays out there. You know what I'm saying? You know, when you throw something on the beach or whatever, you know, they say, oh, you know, the cigarette butts, it's made out of paper. Guess how long they're going to stay out there, you know? And the same thing, you know, like monofilament line, forever, you know, and that's why they have they have beach cleanup. I think it was that Punch Beach.
Yep.
Is that Punch Beach? Is that tomorrow or is that last Saturday? No, I thought it was
one here in Fort Myers Beach about 2 weeks.
2 weeks ago.
Yep.
You know,
Amazing how much garbage you.
it is. It's crazy. Yeah. Yeah, give them the opportunity to bring a metal detector too and see how many rings they get. Now you see how many people are interested in it, right? Like, whoa. And they start saying, oh, I got some fancy stuff here.
Right.
Then they're like, oh, they might be more eager to pick up the trash. Huh?
Yep.
But, yeah.
No, thanks again.
Yeah, well, thanks. Pleasure. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thanks for soaking up a little sunshine with Roxy and the Fort Myers Beach Chamber. If you loved today's local scoop, share this episode, leave a quick review, and follow for more island stories. And come join us every Friday at the Roxy in Times Square on beautiful Fort Myers Beach. Also, to nominate your favorite neighbors, local legends, heroes, or local businesses to be on the show, go to FMBGoodNeighbor.com. That's FMBGoodNeighbor.com. Or call 239-427-4100. Until next time, support local, be a good neighbor, and we'll see you at the beach.